Morning. Morning, morning, morning. Morning. Just turn you down a bit. Need a bit of light, but that's a bit too much light. How are we all this morning? Who's here? Slightly earlier one today. Whoop, got a busy day. Tina Davis. Hello. Janet Sharp. Hello. Ellery Jones. Hello. Cadagirl. Hello. Jasmine Phillips. Hello. Bethan Williams. Gabrielle. Hazel Caldera. Leor Vibe Feeler with her wondrous art. Check her out on Instagram. Hayley Marie. Bethan Williams. Tina Davis. Lee Haggerston. Cafe B. Janet Sharp. Nicholas Sinnott. Tina Davis. Gabrielle. Dawn Claricoats. Andrea Jenner. Linda Fissett. Ross Donnelly. Tina Davies. Steph Coleman. Have I hit everyone? Almost. Dawn Claricoats. Gabrielle. Tina Walker. Yeah. There we go. I think anyone I've missed on, I apologise. Bit of eczema today. Does anyone else suffer from eczema? Does anyone else have eczema? I slept well last night, though. Slept very well last night. So how are we all, guys? How are you? Greetings from COVID-free sunny Perth. Tina Benino. Send our regards back, Australia. You sound very husky today, Deborah Holdsworth. That's only because I've just had a sip of my first coffee. Did you see Freddie Flintoff admit to having bulimia for 20 years on the NBC iPlayer? I did. He did a documentary, didn't he? Or has it gone out? I think it might have gone out. Nadia was talking about it. She worked with him on, I think, a mental health campaign that Loose Women were working on. And we've got a lot of time for Freddie Flintoff. Dandy Magpie. My husband has exactly the same as you in exactly the same place. Finding Weleda nappy cream. Oh, that's good. Helps. It's got nappy face. Morning, Miranda, a survivor. Shirley Finlayson, pouring with rain in Scotland. Well, it's about to tip down here as well. Nadia's just left for Loose, and yeah, my God, it was a busy day yesterday. We recorded a Confessions of a Modern Parent. It's a topic that a lot of people have contacted us to talk about, which is the dilemma of whether you let your teenage sons or daughters allow the opposite sex, or if they're gay, the same sex friends to stay over with the possibility of sex creeping in. At what age should you allow it? Should you allow it under your own roof? All that kind of stuff. So it was a really, I was thinking I had just quite a sort of simple, straightforward attitude to this, but it ended up being a very interesting and detailed conversation. And a lot of your comments, or people's comments on Instagram for sure, came through. So do check that out. I think that'll be landing first thing tomorrow morning. So if you haven't subscribed to our Confessions of a Modern Parent, I think you can on the iPhone podcast app. I think you can subscribe and be notified when our new podcast lands. We also did a really, does anyone else listen to BBC Radio 5 Live? I'm only saying this less about the fact that we were on it for an hour. Happy birthday, Sharona. You know, if Nadia was here, she'd be singing to you. What was I just talking about? What was I just talking about? I was heading off in some direction, and then I forgot myself. Wishing Sharona a happy birthday. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Radio 5 Live. Does anyone listen to it? Oh, you're off to the dentist. Good luck, Gabrielle. Yeah, we're all off to the dentist. And Trolala4, thank you very much. Trolala4, we mentioned you in our podcast, actually. I hope you're well. Yeah, and Nihal, I think, was the name of the presenter at 1 o'clock. We did a 1 hour he has a 1 hour family discussion or chat. And we did 1 hour. And I think it's the first time they've ever had on his show a couple. They often have a parent, but not a pair, a couple, two parents. Oh, thank you, Jill Dyer. You had a listen. You enjoyed it. Yeah, I think you might be able to pick it up. I think there's a podcast. I think we might have retweeted it, me and Nadia. I think BBC Radio 5 Live tweeted something, then we retweeted it. It was really nice, and it gave us both a real taste for just talking on radio. Because I think the thing about radio is you can forget that they filmed us for, I think for their website or something like that, but it wasn't being filmed. But it's a bit like the podcast. You can go into a much more detailed conversation. It wasn't sensationalist. It wasn't, there weren't just people being horrible. It was just really meaningful. It was really nice. It's so yeah, if you get a chance to have a listen to that, we really enjoyed it, and it was funny too. We had a real laugh, and I really liked the DJ, the radio presenter. So yeah, Sky Lease, make the most. Spoil yourself before your late night shift. Nanny Di used to do late night shifts. When I used to work as an editor, I used to do nightly shifts. Oh God, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, editing news content for a news channel. And that was, oh my God, that was like, what time did we go in? We'd go in at 10 for an 11 o'clock shift running through to, I think 9 or 10 the next morning. It's hard. Caroline Dodsworth, thank you for homing in on the plastic straws. They're getting rid of, so today is an official day for some plastic. And I want to know what your pet plastic hates are. So have a think about that. Today they're officially banning plastic straws, earbuds, and there's something else, isn't there? What was the other thing? Plastic buds, plastic straw, earbuds, and stirrers, tea and coffee stirrers. BBC Radio 5 Live, Sue Johns. Mel W, cucumbers. That's an interesting one. So plastic straws, I find, look, all of these things, we have to reduce plastic in every way. Is plastic a better thing if it's recycled? Because as I understand plastic, once you've created it, it's nigh on impossible to remove it. So isn't the onus with plastic actually to keep recycling everything we've made so that we don't make any more, but also so that it doesn't become landfill? Can someone, I mean, I don't know if that's a logical thought. Yes, we watched Enola Holmes last night. We're going to review it. Really, yeah. Don't say too much, though you can probably guess we enjoyed it. Cadder Girl, you're absolutely right. The reason I'm saying this, plastic spoons, knives and forks. I do believe that we need to reduce, obviously I do believe we need to reduce plastic. And I think there are many places where plastic is utterly unnecessary. But Anastasia Alexander, their issue is that straws are too small to recycle. They need to make a recycling thing for straws. Metal straws is a good idea. Nadia has some metal straws. When she does a smoothie, she uses a metal straw. They're kind of weird, they make your teeth go a bit funny. I find, so metal straws, stirrers, the answer to stirrers, is it a wood stirrer? Aren't you then recycling and using wood? Is it a metal stirrer? Too expensive, presumably. So what could we stir with instead of? What do we stir a cup of tea with? I mean, at home we use maybe everyone needs on their keyring a stirring spoon. That'd be good. Shirley Finlayson, I hate paper straws. The girls hate paper straws. It's sort of something from the paper, however much they don't decompress, goes into the drink, doesn't it? So it feels like you're sucking in fluffy stuff. It's really weird. My son loves plastic straws, so he hoarded some in advance. I used to make great long plastic straws. I think I've said this before when I was a kid, and they'd go out to the street, and then me and my friend would try and suck from the pavement, and the drink would be in through the window or the door of the McDonald's. We hate paper straws in this house. Caroline Faulkner, pasta straws. Could that work? I'm guessing they'd go a bit soggy, a bit like paper straws, wouldn't they? So there's paper straws, plastic straws, plastic stirrers, and earbuds. Trying to think how you could change the earbud. Don't know about that. Silicone earbuds, maybe? I don't know. But I tell you one of the things that really makes me nuts. Whenever I go and do the shop, and Nad says, get a big pot of cream. Does anyone else have this one? I mean, there's a lot. I mean, the cucumber one is a good one, whoever said that. I mean, it's like a leotard for vegetables, isn't it? It's like, look at me. Look at me in my shiny cling film. Shiny cling film. Leotard for veg. So yeah, broccoli is likewise. I mean, I suppose they'd argue, is it giving some layer of protection? But it's the tops on the cream, tubs of double cream. Whenever I go to them on the shelf, all of the plastic, the sort of almost clear see-through round top bits, they're all off anyway. I mean, how much plastic could you save by just not making them? Cling film is terrible. Right, Melissa Murnane, plastic can only be recycled a limited number of times. That's the kind of answer I need to hear. Could have a metal earbud with replaceable tips. Move over so we can see your face, God damn it. Emiliana Franzen. I don't understand. Move over, move over, move over. Move over where? What do you mean? Kirsty Moss, did you see BBC News a few days ago that you can no longer have your ears syringed at GPs for free now? So they have also stopped earbuds. How are people to keep ears clean? Bamboo earbuds, Lee. Bamboo earbuds and bamboo floss sticks, they work perfectly. Ah, that's a good idea. I was thinking of using a chopstick with some kitchen roll on the end. What do you reckon? Chopstick with kitchen roll on the end, that might do it. What's that, April Hill, brilliant news. Bamboo straws. It's an unfortunate typo, isn't it, that every time I write Enola Holmes, it comes up as Ebola Holmes. That's not good, is it? To the left. Why do you want me to the left? I don't understand. Emiliana Franzen. You seem quite cross, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know why that changes. I can't take my glasses off if it's the reflection, because otherwise I can't read your comments. You're in the middle, it's fine. How about that? Is that better? Jada Louise, some plastic isn't recyclable. Well, that's good to know. Anyway, okay, so bamboo earbuds, that's the way forward. Or as I say, I might just use a bamboo stick from the garden with a rag on it. That's what I need for my ears, but let's not go there. That's not pleasant. Some really, really sad news today. Chrissy Teigen, John Legend's wife, partner, has posted online about her miscarriage. And our hearts absolutely go out. If you haven't listened to, we did do a How to Stay Married many moons ago, before we'd even really thought about this channel. And we talked about the miscarriages that NADIA experienced and that we went through. Obviously, the trauma for her as a mum to be. We had she had a couple before we had Maddie, and she had a couple, I think she had one before she had Maddie, and she had a couple between Maddie and Kiki. And it is a really, really, really traumatic thing. And Nadia's talked about this, so I'm not talking sort of behind her back. I mean, I remember particularly when I was filming Taste of My Life with Nigel Slater, and we got a phone call. I got a phone call from the head of the BBC, actually, telling me that Nadia had been taken off set because she was working on City Hospital at the time with exactly the same situation that was happening for Chrissy Teigen. Feeling unwell, bleeding, all that kind of stuff. And because, of course, she was in a hospital, I couldn't get to her in time. I was in the middle of it. I think we had Vanessa Redgrave or someone on the show. And I couldn't get to the hospital in time before we were told that she'd lost the baby. And so the only reason I'm saying that is because it's just every time, at first I saw the photo that Chrissy Teigen posted and I thought, my God, that's a bit intense to show that when you're going through this. And yet at the same time, it's that whole thing. It's the negative and the positive around social media is when social media just shows you all the brilliant and all the best, or social media is used as a vehicle for trolling or homing in on people's weaknesses and just mining them for humour and viciousness. And then there's also the ability to share real life experiences in a way that potentially helps other people who've gone through it, are going through it, or might go through it, so that they can feel, I don't know, as if it's not just them and they're not on their own. And perhaps they can get some strength from the fact that, this sort of thing affects everyone, famous, not famous, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you read I just read her Instagram post, and it was really quite heartbreaking and really moving. I just wanted to read it. So she posted this black and white image of her on the hospital bed. And she said, "We're shocked and in the kind of deep pain you only hear about, the kind of pain we've never felt before. We were never able to stop the bleeding and give our baby the fluids he needed. It just wasn't enough. We never decide on our baby's names until the last possible moment after they're born, just before we leave the hospital. But we, for some reason, had started to call this little guy in my belly Jack. Jack worked so hard to be a part of our little family, and he will be forever. To our Jack, I'm so sorry that the first few moments of your life were met with so many complications." She goes on to talk about their children that they have now, and it's grief. It's real grief, and it's a real it's a real trauma. It's a real experience. I mean, obviously it's a physical trauma, and I do think that sometimes, I'm not saying all men do, but I think there's an assumption that yes, it's terrible, but it's not that terrible. It's something that everyone goes through at some point. But it's a proper trauma, because although you're not necessarily, you haven't given birth to a child and the child hasn't died, you are what's dying with, you know, what goes away with the miscarriage is an entirely complicated narrative of family life. Because as soon as you know you're pregnant, as soon as you know you're about to have a child, whatever the set of circumstances, you start to imaginatively construct that child's life and your life with it, don't you? And so you're not just losing a baby, you're losing everything. You're losing the relationship that baby was going to have with your other children. I remember when we had a miscarriage before we had Kiki, and Maddie was very young, and she obviously had a sense of it because it was quite a traumatic miscarriage that happened in the house. And, you know, these things impact on the whole family, and the whole family has to readjust, and the whole family has to go through a process of mourning. So a huge, sending huge prayers and hope and just comfort to Chrissy Teigen and John Legend and anyone else who's gone through this, because it really is quite a difficult thing. And if anyone is struggling, or knows of anyone who's struggling with that sort of thing, it might be helpful. Do have a listen to our How to Stay Married podcast about it, because I've never heard men talk about it too much. I mean, I did talk about it a lot, and we had one particularly traumatic experience, which we talk about there. I know Nadia's talked about on Loose Women, and it's as much of an assault on the emotions and the hormones and your spirit as a dad as it is a mum. So there we go. Jane Mansbridge, my miscarriage 34 years ago started my lifelong battle with depression. Yeah, these are defining moments. They can be defining moments. You know, something when it's like grief. You know, we've all, you included. You know, I mean, you, me, Nadia, everyone. My mum, when she lost her ex-partner Liz last year, was it? No, a year ago now. As soon as you lose anything, my belief about grief is grief never, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, time is the great healer. Time is the big great healer only insofar as you don't think about it. And life gets busy, and life distracts, and you have other children, and you have other relationships, and you've got work, and you do all your things. But as soon as but the feelings you get, for me, it's like when I lost a friend of mine, Toby, when he was just in early 20s, and I was a couple of years older than him. You know, it was the most appalling shock what happened. So shocking. But if I go back there now, the pain, if I sit with it for long enough, if I let myself sit with it for long enough, the pain is exactly the same. So I'm not surprised that a miscarriage 34 years ago is still having ramifications now. I know that when Nadia and I talk about, or when Nadia talks about the miscarriages that she had, it's you know, it runs so deep. It runs so deep. You may heal the cut, but the scar is still there, Janet Sharp. You're absolutely right. Jane Friel, my husband never blinked an eye when I lost my twins. I think for a lot of, not all, absolutely not, but there are a lot of men who don't get it. And, you know, you can either be cross with that or view it as a limitation. It doesn't help you if they were with you and you weren't getting any support, for sure. That's really sad, and I'm sorry about that. Tra-la-la for my husband never talks about our miscarriage, but I used to shut it down when he started to talk about it when it happened. I regret that so much that I did that. Don't regret that. You know, you were both dealing with it, and perhaps maybe if you were to have a little one-to-one tra-la-la and a little chat about it one time, when it comes up, naturally say if your thoughts move towards it, and just say, you know what, back there, da-da-da-da. Sometimes, you know, I do think as Brits we often say, oh, let's not cry over spilt milk. Sometimes if you go back and have a bit of a cry over the spilt milk, it doesn't hurt you so much. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't keep hurting you so much. So maybe there's room there. If you're feeling like you shut it down too much, maybe your husband never talks about it, maybe that's because you're both feeling your way around each other, and maybe you could just both have a moment and a hug and a chat. Kirsty Jane, what are you saying? It's a long one, and I can't think. Kerry Gracie, miscarriage heartache stays with you forever. My 4 miscarriages was the start of my depression. Also the fact that I could not then have children. Oh, Kerry, sending love to everyone today. Oh, Kerry, that's so tough. Sending you all our love. Kirsty Jane, as soon as you'd find out you're pregnant, you start to get ready to become a mother, but after miscarriages, that feeling is still there and you're still a mum. It's so true. It's like you don't just switch off. And also the other thing, as Nadia says, the body is still, catering. It's like a slow motion braking of the car, isn't it? You don't just stop. Sadly, you've lost the baby, but you carry on emotionally and you carry on with the sort of the energy to a degree until you grind to a halt and then it hits you. That's why so much trauma comes sort of days after the event. So yeah, miscarriage makes me feel anxious to have babies one day, Hannah Moore. Don't know how people deal with that. Yeah, no, well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Maddie and Kiki talk in the abstract about whether they have children when they're older or not. And at the moment, they're not very keen. They're part of a generation that, but yeah, it's a worry, isn't it? It's a worry. It's always a worry. It's a bit of a lottery. So yeah, no, our hearts really go out. And again, going back to that point that I made about whether she should have posted the image, I really do think, at first I was not thinking of it from a sort of, oh, you shouldn't have done that. All that virtue signaling, people go, oh, I don't think she, I hate people just sit on their ivory tower, just get sort of almost emotionless going, oh, I don't think she should have posted that. I think she might get a bit stick for that, but actually I think it's a really meaningful sort of reminder to other people who might have just gone through it, that there is a collective feeling, and sometimes that collective experience just helps you get through it. So a couple of other stories today. I've seen people asking, I noticed a couple of people nattering about Boris's dad. He's a right one, isn't he? I mean, it's bad enough that Boris doesn't really know what the bloody hell's going on. But it's even worse when you're a sort of prime minister who's kind of struggling to handle things and know what the rules are. And then your dad keeps flapping around. I mean, didn't he fly via some other country to get to Greece in order to bypass all of the corridor rules and all that? Didn't he do that? Didn't he sort of make some huge detour in order to sort of break the rules? I mean, he's a loose cannon. Stanley, tut. And at the opposite political end of the spectrum, there's Jeremy Corbyn. Did you see Jeremy Corbyn's comment about it? I mean, okay, so he made a mistake. We've all made mistakes. We know that. So he's made a mistake and he's apologised for it. But his apology was quite funny. It's the way he described, our dinner went from 5 to over 6. I mean, he didn't say it like that. But do you know what I mean? It's so funny that you've got Stanley Johnson in a I think he was in a newsagent's in Maida Vale, wasn't he? He did, didn't he, Carla Martin? He, I think Boris looks very ill. Well, Michel D, some days I think he looks ill, and then other days I think he looks quite smart and dapper. I can't work out. Alexis Hernandez, is there a difference between losing a baby at 2 weeks versus a bond with a baby at 8 months? Yeah, well, it's totally dependent on the mother, really. I mean, I suppose the thing about 2 weeks is you're less likely to even necessarily know you're pregnant. But I think one of the most particularly distressing parts of Chrissy Teigen's story is that she was feeling the baby move. And that really individualizes and personalizes the baby. I mean, like, for example, when Kiki first kicked in Nadia's tummy, it was Maddie saying the word kicking a lot, that she's kicking, it's a kicking baby, kicking, and then kicking turned into Kiki. And I like the name Kiki because of various others. So that sort of, even in the tummy, they can develop a bit of a personality, can't they? I mean, apparently I used to hiccup all the time when I was in my mum. So my nan used to tell me, which is kind of apt when you think I'm a recovering alkie. It's all that vodka I was going to slug for the rest of my life. So what do you think Stanley Johnson tell us what Boris should do about Stanley. They're such sort of British old-fashioned names, aren't they? Boris and Stanley. Usually it's your kids making trouble for you, and Boris has it the other way, Rowena Azimi. You're absolutely right. I'm just sort of looking for, I was a rebel when my mum was pregnant with me, Sky Elise, Stan the man, Andrea Crash. Stanley should be fined. Fine him. Lock him up. Wow, Nicola Sinner. Nicola Randall, fine him. I'm flipping between subjects here because so many meaningful things are being said. Obviously, when we do these news digests, lots of comments kind of lag a bit, but I'd just like to just read this out. Cafe B says, miscarriages are awful, but stillborn is definitely harder, especially when you hold them in your arms. I could not agree more. We haven't gone through that, but everything you hear about that is the case. So I think you can apply a similar, because, you know, obviously the later in the pregnancy that, you know, you lose the baby, then the likelihood for having to deliver the baby is much higher. Isn't Boris German? I think there is a Germanic element to them, isn't it? You're right. Treat him like everyone else, Irene Gregory. Does Stanley have health issues? Maybe he doesn't have to wear a mask. Oh, Sarah Robinson, you might be handing him a little bit of an excuse there. He's his own man. If he wasn't Boris's dad, we wouldn't know about it. Very true, Julia Eaton. Very true. He is his own man. That's very true. I mean, I think Boris has to just steer his course, perhaps. Oh, look, here we go, Jodie. Chrissy is being attacked. Oh, what a non-surprise. Chrissy is being attacked online for posting photos, mostly by male trolls who don't understand why she'd want to remember. Then you just have to take pity on those male people criticising it. I mean, it's just not even their place to mention it. Being an Eatonite is a health issue, a public health issue for the rest of us, PhD Pickles. Yeah, Eatonites are bad for your country's health. I think that's a fair point. Nanny Di said you hiccuped in the womb, Emiliana Franzen. My nanny Thelma told me, and my mum concurred. I'm not entirely sure how much my mum remembers of me in her tummy, bless her. Yeah, no, and Jeremy Corbyn. So we've got both Stanley Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn breaking the rule of 6. So that's all very funny. It's just, you know, it just shows that everyone is fallible. Everyone is fallible. What other news stories have we got here? Let's have a quick look. We've got asylum. So there was the story yesterday about Priti Patel having, you know, entertained thoughts of having an island for asylum seekers. What do you think the solution is to asylum seekers? And I'm talking here not about, you know, the whole immigration discussion, but genuine asylum seekers, people who are coming to seek asylum. And I know there's a sense that a lot of people use the asylum seeking process as a way to exploit the system, etc., etc. But let's park that to one side. But genuine asylum seekers, do you think this suggestion of an asylum ferry or ferries off the coast of the country is quite a good one? What do you think? I'm just trying to find this. Here we go. Asylum seekers could be processed on old ferries. Ministers are understood to be considering converting disused ferries moored off the coast to process people seeking asylum in the UK. Record numbers of people crossed the channel to the UK in small boats last month. I mean, something has to be done, doesn't it? Something has to be done. But is this necessarily the right thing? Give them asylum, Irian Tyler Paris. I agree. I mean, I think there has to be a process that they go through, and some countries have a more sort of lenient process than others. Rugyar Bibi, it's more like a concentration camp. I mean, treat them like human beings because that's what they are. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I always kind of go with my first instinct on this. When I heard Priti Patel was talking about an island, it felt deeply odd and something about it was wrong. I couldn't quite work out what I was finding a problem. It's the idea of shipping them away and putting them somewhere else like they're a bad smell or something like that. That's what made me feel uncomfortable. And because I used to hear phrases from much older generations, you know, a lot of people, you know, who were lovely, just a different generation who would say, oh, ship them off to an island and all that kind of stuff. That had sort of bad associations. And then the ferries thing came up, and I immediately had I balked at it at first. And then I was thinking of cases in other countries where prisons and what have you have been used. You know, they've created prisons off the coast on ferries and things like that. As Caitlin Ross says, quite rightly, conditions for asylum seekers that asylum seekers are kept in are disgusting. I agree. Neve, Ed, we need to work with mainland Europe, process them, see what they need. Well, again, I tell you what I think is going to happen with our Brexit situation. I think there's going to be an unwritten, an informal sort of situation in France and from other European countries where they're going to almost turn a blind eye and encourage asylum seekers to just keep hitting us. It's not their problem now because we've separated ourselves from the EU. They're going to want us to deal with it. And in some regards, if they were to formalise that, I kind of understand it because we've decided to pull ourselves away and we're sort of trying to exploit the fact that we have a natural moat around us, don't we? Because I agree. I think we should work more with Europe, but we are in the process of it sort of separating from Europe. So that ain't going to happen, is it? I don't know. I can't work out what's right about this or not. I mean, if they can ensure that a ferry is nicer than the current conditions, I mean, just because it's a ferry, it might be much nicer than the conditions they're kept in at the moment. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think it's necessarily just out and out wrong, but there's always something about the idea of sort of kettling people into something. But then I guess if you actually examine the asylum seeking process now, they're kettled into asylum seeking centres, aren't they? So why not just put it on a boat? Carla Martin, I wish we had never left the EU, Mark. I don't know. People voted for Brexit like it would somehow stop immigration. This country is largely racist. We've taken less refugees than the rest of Europe, Jodie. Shirley Finlayson, I don't entirely disagree, Jodie. Irian Tyler Paris, people are so worried about them exploiting the system, but they can't claim any benefit or pension until they're citizens, which doesn't happen until they've worked for a certain amount of time. That's interesting. So clarifying the fact that it's not a case of just getting over here and then just easily exploiting the system. No, you're right. There is a process and there is a due process. I do think as the world becomes a more and more difficult place, I do worry sometimes that we're going to end up very much with a sort of, I remember saying to NADIA about 3 or 4 years ago, you wait, the images of migrants and asylum seekers on boats in the Mediterranean is going to be in the English Channel before long. So yeah. Thank you, Beverly Pickard. Thank you, very kind of you. There was a film on Facebook showing them staying in hotels getting 3-star treatment. Is that, in terms of that being good or bad? Look at the Windrush scandal. That tells you all you need to know about this government. Rachel says, yes, it's funny you should say that, because Windrush, of course, was named after the ship that brought over the first migrants from, was it Jamaica? And sort of ships, I don't know why, ships always, I don't know, there's strange connotations, isn't there, with sort of corralling people on ships. So anyway, hit the thumbs up, guys, if you're enjoying this news digest. I'm going to just have a little quick trawl through before we head off. What else? It's Black History Month starts this month, so there'll be all sorts of events there to celebrate, commemorate, and to champion. What other bits of news have come up? It's Stoptober. Do you know anyone who's doing Stoptober? Is Stoptober, given the fact that we're all in COVID crisis, lockdown, madness, nightmare, I can drink as much coffee as I want. Are we throwing that out the window? So Black History Month this month, a great time to celebrate Black people's achievements in the arts, in industry. I'm looking here at a screen with people like John Boyega, June Sarpong, who we love, Skunk and Nancy, oh my God, do you remember them? Michaela Cole, memorialising Chadwick Boseman and what have you. So there'll be lots there. Stoptober, what is that, Mark? Stoptober, stop, as in stop drinking alcohol in October. It's traditionally loved Skunk and Nancy, so did I. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic of 16 years this October. In fact, my 16th birthday is October 28th this year. And I don't know if I necessarily think everyone should stop this October, though I do believe everyone needs to reduce their alcohol, because otherwise we're having an absolute crisis. Oh my God, this is a terrible story that's just landed. Sorry, I'm just going to share the story. Who remembers the Only Fools and Horses actor Nicholas Lyndhurst? His teenage son has been found dead. Sorry, this is literally just broken 1 minute ago. Only Fools and Horses star Nicholas Lyndhurst's son Archie dead, aged 19. Oh my God. He was an CBeebies actor, Archie Lyndhurst, discovered at his family home in non-suspicious circumstances. Oh, that's awful. That is awful. Oh, God. Unexplained and not suspicious. Oh dear, that's tragic. Sorry, whenever you hear things like that, it always poleaxes you, doesn't it? Because you realise that just this stuff can just erupt into your life just so suddenly. Obviously, Nicholas Lyndhurst played, was it Rodders? You Plonker, God, what's the name of the older guy that was in it that used to be called You Plonker? Oh, that is tragically sad. Oh my God, our heart goes out to them. Our heart goes out to Nicholas Lyndhurst's family. That is so sad. Oh, Sorry, I literally just saw that come up. That's just landed. If you want to go and see the full story, it's in The Sun. It just landed 1 minute ago. And another news story that's going to be a curious one for Nadia is the Kardashian star Kris Jenner has been accused of sexual harassment by former bodyguard. She's been accused of sexually harassing and exposing herself to a former bodyguard. She's alleged to have subjected the man to unwanted and unwelcome sexual advances while he was working security, a claim that's been described as utterly ludicrous by her lawyer. So there you go, two stories just at the end there. Our hearts go out to Nicholas Lyndhurst's family and what's happened there. I mean, you know, obvious thoughts spring to mind. And I can leave you with one funny, slightly amusing quote. You know, I'm a Star Wars fan. Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, has summed up the Donald Trump and John Biden TV debate in one perfect tweet. He says in his tweet, if I can get this to scroll down. Oh, excuse me. This screen is going a little bit all over the place. Just one sec. So he says, which is quite funny, Mark Hamill, "That debate was the worst thing I've ever seen, and I was in the Star Wars Holiday Special." If anyone hasn't seen the Star Wars Holiday Special, don't watch it. It's diabolically bad. So he's right. So there we go. And they're talking about, by the way, quickly, they're just talking about changing the rules. I was saying to someone yesterday that they needed to kill the microphones on each person in the presidential debate when the other person, not when they're needing to argue with each other, sort of open the mics up, but then close their mics down individually when one is talking for 2 minutes, so they can at least just plow on with their message. And that's what they're doing. You'd have thought someone would have thought of that on the night, wouldn't you? Okay, guys, well, look, some sad news in that one today. Spare a thought for other people. Before you judge anyone in the world today, always think, what have they been going through privately themselves? How would you like to be treated? Treat others like you'd like to be treated yourself. And stay safe. Stay safe, San Diego. Lots of love, everyone. And I think another vlog might be landing tonight. Take care. Bye.